So, the other week I made a video about indie books as a bonus video. It was more of a little ranty rant because of what people say in very uneducated opinions and dismissal of an entire writing group. Indie does have a bad press. You think of vanity presses, people trying to hawk their books out of their garage and things like that. It's changed, and the lines between indie and traditional published are so blurred now that it's almost indecipherable. Yes, you do have to wade through a lot of crap on the indie stuff, especially sort of self-published vanity projects, which still exist. But for every 10 crap novels that are going to be some YA wish fulfillment or some reworded fan fiction, there is a great set of books that are stunning, that put a lot of genuinely traditional published books to shame. And here they are. I made this list and it was very difficult, but I tried to touch upon different genres or different styles of the same genre in one case, but I thought it would be an interesting one to do. I've blurred the lines between indie and small press as well, just because of the nature of it, because those lines are very blurry. But like I said, those lines are blurred anyway. When you have a book that's been edited by the same people that are editing, I don't know, a Stephen King novel, or the same people that are editing traditional published novels, that are being indie published, those lines are so blurred now, and this whole notion that they're crap writers or this or that, or they failed. They haven't. They just want control over their work. And you can hire copy editors. All of these people, you can do it yourself. And yes, like I said, there's a lot of crap. But once you wade through it, go for it. And to one commenter, Kindle Unlimited is not great for indie. I won't lie here. There is some great stuff, but you have to wade through so much. And yeah. But anyway, so here is the list. I hope you guys enjoy. And tell me what you think as below. The Order of Nature. So this book was sent to me a few years ago, and it always resonated with me. And it's about Andrew accepting a volunteer placement in Gambia after college. Sheltered and shy, he wanted to change from his well-to-do suburban life. At first, things went as planned. He did good work, made friends, and started to break out of his shell. But then he unexpectedly met Thomas. Thomas is a charming hotel bartender. Having ran away from his homophobic village, he understands all too well how unforgiving his country can be to people like himself. He has one friend and nowhere safe to be who he is. Then unexpectedly he meets Andrew. This is powerful and thought-provoking, and it looks at the politics, the research that went into this novel. It's beautiful and well written, and it really does paint a frightening picture of some of these countries, that people forget that we are still, your life is at danger for being gay or being part of the Rainbow Mafia. And this is beautiful. Like, the characters, it's stunning, and I would wholeheartedly tell you to buy this book today. The Kishi by Antoine Bendelet. Now, this is a book to get your teeth in. He is a phenomenal fantasy writer, and he's written quite a few other short stories, and he's also published by Sea and by Sky, the Sky Pirates Chronicles. He is up there again with this kind of big world-building, great fantasy. This is more Witcher-style fantasy with a little bit... I'm trying to put it into terms of nearest comparison to give you an idea. A little bit Games of Thrones-y here and there in the terms of just big, but very, very character-driven as well. The Kishi is inspired by African myth. And because of him, I went on this massive deep dive into the myths and legends of the African continent and all the little countries within the African continent. It's quite amazing. And this is just stunning. He is one of those writers that can build a world, put the characters in it, the characters flow the narrative. He's not scared to take them to a darker place, but he's also not scared to have their lighter moments. They're kick-ass, they're strong, they're powerful, but they're interplayed in so many different ways. He's one of those writers that again reached out to me, and I found him because of that, and I will praise his work over and over and over because it's beautiful. And what I will say is that if you're going to get his work, again, this is easily accessible. All of these books are easily found and easily got. and what I will say is that he is definitely one to watch. He's also built a small publishing house around his own work, which I think is a brilliant idea. And I just want to say, if you want a nice, good fantasy, check out the Kishi, or actually any of his work, in all fairness. It's all there. Check it out. Beyond, Georgina Springate. So, this is the only YA on the book list, and I'm not normally a big YA person. This was a small press publisher, so this book is readily available. You can buy it in conventional bookstores and so on. It's a small press book. You can get this one very easily. Basically, it's Alex Duncan is just an ordinary 14-year-old boy. His main worry is homework, girls, and school bully. Then his sister, who has cancer, stage B. As his parents react to retreat into themselves, Alex is desperate to find a way to help his sister and make things better for her. It's interesting because the YA cancer trope got very tired, but this book is different. This is a very British book. The story is very British. It feels that way. It's more relatable to, I think, if you are British, but also I think the way that you see it from the outside looking in, because people forget when you have someone in a family, and this is from personal experience with a terminal illness, it doesn't just affect the person, it affects the people around them. It's life-changing, and this book really paints that beautifully. It's very emotional, and I said this before, I'm not really a YA person, but I sat down and went, oh wow, it's one of those. Deep Aria. Unusual name, I know, but again, unusual name, unusual books. He writes short form horror stories, and I'm going to use the first one he actually sent me, but there's several others, and I'm looking forward to his new book when it comes out. And I think I mentioned him in the video anyway. The Overbridge is this great kind of horror. It's a Stephen King-esque horror that pulls you in and gets under your skin. It's short. It's a little novella, but it works because it's designed to get you going. It's designed to give you that rush. But then it slows down, and the characters happen, and their moments happen, and then it speeds up, and it pulls you in again. He is a writer that can get under your skin. Don't Trust the Bees is a great short story thing as well. He's a great writer, and just someone who has grown as a writer, who has, I don't know, like, you can see the evolution of his writing from this first book through, and I love all of his work. He really, it's when you read a horror novel and you have a couple of nightmares after, it's done its job. He's a great writer and definitely someone to read. Father in the Forest by R.K. Gold. R.K. is someone I count as a friend. He's a phenomenal writer, great YouTuber. All for Reacts videos are hilarious. He's just a funny guy and does a lot of good work. So, he wrote a Studio Ghibli-inspired middle-grade fantasy. He's written other genres, by the way. He's a great writer with a great voice. And you just have this interplay of this country and these children after this war. And you have their relationships and their journey and their adventure. And the main character, this girl, she is absolutely brilliantly written, and the interplay of how she interacts with the world, her language, this is a beautifully written book. It's so charming and sweet, and you sort of have this big adventure going on, and it's a middle grade. It's beautiful, it's charming, it's Studio Ghibli inspired. He's a great writer, and I adore his work, and just, he's one of those. He sent me one of his previous books, and there is a lot to talk about, but I'm picking on this one because I think it's a nice interplay of his writing and his writing style, but then you have all this sort of delicateness and softness, and and also, I won't lie, I'm a steampunk geek, so this is always making me happy. And now, I've talked about this guy before, Wilbur Seymour, Khyber Station. I adore his work. He is an indie writer. He is a phenomenal writer. Military science fiction that the world building is phenomenal, and just there's a little bit of Alien in this, a little bit of the darkness. There's a little bit. I'm trying not to say too much, so I'll give a lot away. But you have this epic event going on around all of these characters, but everything is very beautifully tied together and follows a very strong narrative of the main character. He's very good at writing these characters and putting them together. He's unusual in that sense because I'll be really honest with you, I've not read many traditionally published military science fiction that's as good as him. He's written other books, including a very short little horror that's a retelling of Pinocchio, and the brilliant War Peace 2036. He's a great writer and a friend as well. Ironically, a friend. And just someone who really deserves a lot more attention than he gets. Phenomenal. Jarrett Robinson. I always have to say that with an American accent because we don't say it the same way. Now, the Nightblade epic. He is up there with Tolkien in just the style of building this world. That's the only person I could compare him to in world building. Like, you have this complicated, big universe with all of these books and stories and characters that intertwine and interlink, and his writing it's high epic fantasy, and his writing just, oh god, his writing. I just, I found him through social media, and I've read everything he's ever written. It's kind of an addiction now, to the point of I actually own a couple of some prints as well from the covers, which I'm yet to hang on the wall. He's a great writer, and I mean, he's built his own publishing house around his work, Legacy Books. He's just this, once you start, you won't be able to put it down. I won't lie, I do think the first book in the Nightblade epic is the weaker book, but it's not bad, it's just the weaker. But, it just builds and builds and builds, and it's big, and it's an explosive, and it's brilliant, and I mean, he's one that you will read forever. He's up there with Tolkien for me, and there's very few people I would put on that level in terms of like complicated world and mythology and characters and stories. He's just one of those writers.